First of all, I want to say hello and welcome. And this is going to be a shorter meeting. I actually changed the research proposal template just this morning. And so I don't know, have you guys seen this template yet? Have you looked at it yet? Probably not quite yet.
No, I
Which is
looked at the one
good.
from last night. Yeah.
Good. Okay, this is good because I just changed it. Let me show you where it's from. Our research paper is this handout. And for our prompt, and then we get down to number 1, it says there's a research proposal template. And then I took the samples that I created and put in your announcement, and I put a link to them here because I think that they're helpful in terms of thinking about a topic. Because for this particular research paper, it's a little bit different because it is layered. And what that means is that you are choosing a topic where you're looking at the impact of writing and then deciding and arguing which type of writing was the most impactful. So, for example, I talked about the Me Too movement, which is a more current topic, so like the hashtag Me Too. And so I'm looking at a particular time and place and about that movement where you come up with 3 different genres of samples. And the genres that we include, and genre just means type, such as speeches, laws, pamphlets, mainstream newspapers, underground newspapers, leaflets, letters, film, political propaganda, music, social media, right? And then you're going to choose your 3 samples. You're going to look at the time period and decide which one made the most difference. So that is the research paper in a nutshell, but it is layered. And so it's important for you to, my dog's going to go nuts right now. Sorry, there's someone right outside. It's important for you to understand that it's not just choosing a topic and researching it. You're choosing a time period in which something changed, and then you are choosing 3 samples of writing, and then you're deciding which one was the most impactful and why. So I don't know if you took a look at my samples here.
Wait, I got a question. So a time period and then 3 writings from that time period?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But the thing is that when you choose your topic, it may be that, like, I had a student in my face-to-face class who was fascinated about Hitler's Mein Kampf, that particular piece of writing and how it instituted change. And so he chose the piece of writing first, which then dictated the time period, right, where there was change. Other students are like, well, I want to do something more current, for example, about LGBTQ issues. And so they are choosing a time period and then choosing the samples of writing afterwards. And so going back to that first example about Mein Kampf, now he also has to choose 2 other pieces of writing that were used during that time period that enacted change, encouraged the rise of the Nazis. That was not a positive change, but it was a change. So why would somebody be attracted to the Nazi party when it is so racist and it takes away your rights and that sort of thing? It was like this really negative movement. And how did it get people interested in it? I've had people do something with the women's right to vote. How did women get the right to vote? I've had people choose stuff about the Civil War, civil rights. I've had people even go way back further in time and look at writings that made changes way far back in history. So it's up to you to choose something that you are personally interested in, and looking at how 3 different samples of writing helped to instigate the change of something.
Okay.
So I changed our proposal template because I think it will be helpful, where you come up with a topic that you're interested in and why, and then you think about how you're going to pursue it, like how you would actually look at it. And the sample that I included in here kind of takes you through a little bit of it, what you might include in a proposal. The second sample is about the Vietnam War and how there was a protest against it and it wasn't a very popular war, and what kind of writing instigated this unpopularity of this particular war, and how did that change how our country takes part in war, because it did make a lot of changes. And so this is where the person has chosen the history first. This example is about, choosing the writing first. And then there's a place here where you can actually go on. I'm encouraging you to look up Wikipedia. Even though Wikipedia is not a source that you can use in your paper, it's often a good place to look. So you might look up, for example, if you were going to do the Me Too movement, and see the history of that and come up with some information here, and look at the sources that are found at the bottom of the page, which you could use. And here's a place for you to look to place down your 3 writing samples and information about each of these samples, which are primary sources. And primary sources are sources that are created at the time that you're studying. Secondary sources are sources that discuss those primary sources. Okay, so if we were going to look at something that we've done already, if we were to study Jonathan Taylor Gatto's Against School, we could call that a primary source. If we looked up sources about what he wrote, those would be secondary sources. Okay, so there's a place for you to look up the primary sources here, and then the secondary sources, and I'm giving you a sample of how to look at what type of evidence it is, and then how somebody might argue against it, just trying to think about it. And it's a workplace for you to come up with your initial sources that you can change, but it's just a good starting place for you. Okay. And this handout right here is linked directly from right here, this research proposal template. And this research proposal template helps to walk you through 1 and 2 of your research paper. Okay. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to read the prompt, the key questions in the prompt, and then I will answer any questions you might have, or you can share with me what you're thinking about maybe doing, and we can talk about it. Okay? So the key questions: how does writing instigate a revolution in behavior and/or attitudes? Which would you argue is the best type of writing for creating meaningful change? Okay? There's not just one answer for this. So, and there's not even just one answer for this. They're very open-ended. And depending on the time in history that you choose will help you answer these questions. And so the prompt is, look at a time and place in history or currently where writing is or was used to make change. Consider the types of writing used, such as speeches, laws, pamphlets, mainstream and underground newspapers, leaflets, letters, film, political propaganda, music, or social media, and choose 3 or more to investigate. So you're choosing 3 separate ones. So you might choose a leaflet, music, underground newspaper, or, any combination of the 3. And then based on your investigation within the context of writing, argue which type of writing seems to be the most impactful or helpful, and in terms of encouraging change, and why. Okay. And so the audience for this paper are scholars and those who wish to use writing to make meaningful changes. All right. And so I have the parameters here, but if you look below, there are steps. Research 1, research 2, research 3 are preparing you. And then there's the project itself. And so the next several weeks, I'm going to walk you through each part of this project. Okay? And then these first 2 weeks, we're looking at these 2 right here. Okay? Do you have any questions at this point in time, or would you like to ask me or tell me what you're thinking about potentially doing?
So you know how you said that one thing about what's the book called? The one that Hitler.
Mein Kampf.
Yeah, Mein Kampf. So I had like the opposite of that. I was doing some research yesterday, and about propaganda for World War II, and then they used comic books, here in America, to persuade Americans to join the military to, battle against the Nazis. So can I do like that time period, or like
Absolutely.
say how that affected people in that time period, but also how the Mein Kampf or whatever it's called. So can I like write about both sides, or
If you would like to do kind of a that would be interesting. I would probably suggest getting at least one more source. And so what it seems like you're trying to do is, how did the Nazis convince people to join Nazism, and how did the U.S. convince people to fight this war? Because we, at this point, we actually joined World War II really, really late, meaning that at that point in time, the United States was not interested in fighting another world war. I mean, no country was, except for Germany at that point, for economic reasons. But they were very much about, we need to focus in on what is happening at home and not what is happening in the rest of the world. And then with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, that was a shift. And so there did need to be different types of writings to encourage people to join the movement. So you absolutely could, but I'd encourage you to have make it kind of equal. So at least 2 types of writing for the United States and 2 types of writing for Nazi Germany, because not all the Germans chose to didn't agree with the Nazis. In fact, before Nazism, nobody would have thought the German would have become Nazi. And I am teaching English 103 in the summer, and that is my topic, actually, is World War II and the Holocaust and all of that. If you're interested, just an FYI.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're interested in that topic. So, yes, absolutely. You could tailor it that way.
Okay.
Now, Samantha, is this your first time seeing the topic? Because I know you've been working.
So I was scanning it before we had a meeting, but then again, I was thinking about, oh my god, what can be my topic? The only thing that popped out in my head was how was our national hero in the Philippines, because with his writing he triggered the Filipinos to battle their rights and the independence from the Spaniards. So that's the only thing that I could think about actually, but I don't know how to puzzle everything out with how to get my resources, how do I get my sources. Aside from that, is it just the books, or am I just gonna get my information out of books, or should I?
No. In
Or
fact, that I can give you a couple of ideas because
okay,
that sounds like a fantastic topic. Nobody's ever done it before. And if you can find the sources, that would be great. So for this particular research paper, you have to have at least one library source, and you can do more than one. But what you're saying is that there's a piece of writing that you thought of. So if you're going to be looking for that time period and what instigated a revolution in the Philippines, you need to look and see if there were other types of writing that also encouraged that. And so you'd have 3 samples of those. Okay.
okay,
That would be your primary sources.
okay,
And then what you would want to do is you would want to, your secondary sources can be, there's lots of choices you can make. You could look up sources about how does writing enact change, or how does writing instigate change. You could look up sources about your primary sources. So you could look up, somebody wrote a scholarly writing about your topic, you could do that.
yeah,
You could look up a scholarly writing about the Filipino War for Independence. So there's different ways you could find those secondary sources. But I would say that the challenge for you is to see if you could find a couple of more primary sources that would join that first speech. And you can look on the internet for your sources. It's
yeah,
not just at the library. You can look at both. But I do encourage you to go to the Cerritos College Library. Use the sheet that I gave you. I gave you some wonderful, like, how to look up things in the library. And in fact, my last Zoom video, if you have not seen it, you may want to go back and watch it, because we looked up things in the library, I believe. I'm trying to think about that, you guys, and my English 100 face-to-face class. But you can look up stuff there, and if you are running into an issue, we can always talk. You can email me, but you can also go to the library with your topic, and the librarians will sit down and help you. I mean, I get help from the librarians too. I ask them for questions about stuff all the time, because they're up to date. But I think your topic would be fascinating. It would be original. So, but if you feel like, okay, you start to look for things, but you're not finding what you are wanting to find easily enough, you can change your topic. But I think you chose a good one.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
For the book, The Help, are we supposed to start reading that, or like?
Yes. And in fact, let me see if I can find our class here. Usually I can, nope, I moved you. I usually have you guys, oh, maybe it's here. It is here. Okay. So let's go to the modules. And let's look at the road. I made this roadmap a little different because it's such a long unit. I just broke it up into 2 weeks chunks. So if we go down here, yes, you are reading the help, and the graphic organizer is due tonight. I will give you through the weekend though.
Okay.
Okay. So far, this was what you were supposed to do, pretty much these 2 items. And then what's due today is your first discussion. I put it up here, but your first discussion, your help, chapters 1 through 6, and then looking up the library research support assignment. So that's what that is.
Okay.
But I will tell you, the help is very easy to read, but there is a lot of depth there. So I think it'll be quick to read, but there's a lot to talk about. So I really encourage strong annotation.
Yeah.
So making sure you're marking up the text so that, and taking good plot summary notes so that you remember what, you can go back and remember what's going on in the chapters.
So for the book, we're only gonna have like discussions and stuff, but nothing related to the essay.
Well, there's going to be a couple things. You're going to have a small project with it, but it's not going to be a regular essay, but it's going to be a smaller kind of visual project that you're going to do. And then for those people who decide that they would like to do the Times Right as an option to replace this current Times Right, you can decide to do that at the end of it as well.
Okay.
All right. Okay. If there's nothing else, I will sign off, and this has been useful. I really appreciate both of you. I had 2 different topics and things to discuss, and so the people seeing this video will find it useful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.